Good afternoon, all, and welcome to my live analysis sessions on a Thursday. Now, what we do here is we just spend a few minutes analysing somebody in the media. And it turns out that this week, Prince Harry has actually made a statement where he has said to the British people, you need to go away and have a good look at yourself. And I thought that was possibly a little bit of an impetus for us to have a good look at Harry. Now, why do we do this? We do this because we can pick things out, and that's interesting, but we learn about ourselves. We learn about what to observe and hopefully some great tips on what to do. So, what I'd like to do is look at the particular video that he did 1 month ago with Meghan on the seat, where they were talking about voting and whether people should vote or not. Now, according to Piers Morgan, the general public in UK are feeling very sad about Harry, and to quote him, this was a very handsome, courageous military prince who was a war hero, very popular, and we loved him all for his cheeky shenanigans. He says, I look at Harry today and he looks like one of those poor people in a hostage video, and you want to send in the SAS to rescue him. Now, of course, this is Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome being where the hostage develops a psychological allegiance and alliance with the captors. And that certainly looks very much that way to me. So, I'm going to show the video at the end of this analysis, but I'm going to point out the things that we could watch. First of all, and this is the photo of the video, proxemics, that is the psychology of space, is very important. And who has the power? There is a position which has power, it is in the middle. And there's also who takes up the most space. And it's very clear here that Meghan takes up most of the space and that Harry's kind of hemmed in up, against the end of the seat. But I'd like to talk about, before I get to Harry, about Meghan's vocal process. Which I find fascinating because I don't warm to her. And there are things that she does that I've tried to pull out to find why is that. First of all, she does a thing called a glottal attack on her sound. Now, when it comes to sound, there are three ways to initiate sound. First way, aspirate. That means that the air begins before the vocal folds start. So you might say, every 4 years, every 4 years. This is the Irish people will do this with their language. Or you can have simultaneous, where the air and the vocal folds begin together. Every air and sound begin together. Or you can have glottal attack. Glottal attack is where the vocal folds smash together and you get every. And Meghan does use this technique. Look, I use it, we all use it. Every 4 years, we use it for accent. It is, however, a dangerous vocal technique, and it is something that will hurt your voice and sound very aggressive, and something you don't want. The other thing that she does is that she tends to seal her jaw. So it's tight here, the lip seal, the teeth seal. And as a consequence, we have to get overactive lip movement to create words. And during the speech, she actually turns to the camera and says, but this one is. And she does that overactive lip movement with the teeth completely sealed. That's again, quite aggressive. She talks about let's build communities of compassion. Now, I compare this to Michelle Obama. When Michelle Obama spoke for the Democrat Congress, she actually spent the whole time talking like this. She moved her head and she spoke, and she had the sound like this. Now, when we have escaping air like this is the voice of compassion. So it would be congruent for Meghan to say, let's build communities of compassion. Compassion. That's not what she does. She actually says, let's build communities of compassion. And I think we all have to be very careful that we don't speak in this way with glottal attacks, with our mouth sealed, and with hard speaking. Obviously, she does that more beautifully than I do, but she is doing those techniques. When she finishes what she has to say, she sort of breaks stage. She's here. Harry is on her right, and suddenly she goes, "Oh, are you still there?" You know, it's like he wasn't there for her during the presentation. You watch, it's absolutely there. And then she rubs her leg. She rubs herself. Yes, yes, well done, well done. She rubs her leg like that. And it really is very obvious. She then watches Harry, I have to say, without a beautiful face of love or a neutral face. In fact, she looks at Harry as though I would describe it as somebody who's been served fish at dinner and you don't eat fish, but you don't want to insult the hostess. So it's sort of like, you know, oh dear, oh dear. And then she turns her head from Harry twice, but she doesn't turn and look at the camera, which is what you're supposed to do. Like, isn't this person brilliant? Yeah. In fact, this is what she does. She's looking at him like he's a bad fish dish. And then she goes, looks at the ground, looks back at him, looks at the ground. Now, this has messages. You know, she may have been looking at a shoe, who knows? But this does have messages of disrespect, which is really unusual. So Harry, what is he doing? Well, I think that it's very clear that Harry is aware of the psychological fallout from him actually speaking up about the American election. And one of the things he does is with his eyes. Now, I see this quite a lot with coaching clients, is that we think we're looking straight ahead, but we're actually not. So Harry's eyes are moving where his thinking's going, you know, his emotional thought, and he's visualizing things, and he's over here and he's doing that. And then when he brings his eyes back to the center, he actually isn't. He's blinking like this, and it's an excuse for eye contact. His unconscious mind will say, yes, look at me looking at the camera, but he's actually not. He's blinking like that, and then he's off again to the side. So he's avoiding that contact. He does not want to talk to people. His voice, we talk about vocal placement, and a great place for vocal placement is often under the eyes. Under the eyes is where the vibration of sound needs to be, so that sound carries and it's healthy. In fact, a rule of thumb is if you can feel your voice on your throat, you're doing something wrong. And Harry definitely places his feeling of his voice on his throat. He puts it onto his throat, and this, you know, is not a great sound. It goes too deep, and it's feeling on his throat. It's not great vocal production. His jaw also, he has a habit of smiling like that, or looking at people with the bottom jaw out. However, in this particular video, he is doing it dramatically. Not only is his jaw up, but he's moving his mouth. He's biting away what he has to say. And he doesn't normally do that. It shows enormous tension in what he is about to say when he's sitting there doing that. His posture, his legs are open, but his heels are together. Now, can you see that in that photo? Let me have a look. Yes. So he's kind of relaxed, but then the heels come in together. Just do that for yourself. Put your knees apart and put your ankles together and see how that feels, because it is a sort of an I'm okay, not really. And posturally, when Megan mentions, when she is speaking, you know, we all have a voice and your voice matters. He goes berserk and he's twitching, his mouth's going, and he throws his head to the side. He was really struck by this language of your voice matters, which is a bit of giveaway of where his psychological state is. His gestures, this was very disturbing. He was fidgeting absolutely madly. And at one stage, he actually cracked his knuckles. Now, this is self-abuse. So it is quite distressing. And Piers Morgan says that he notices things. And my point here is to point out, what does he notice? You know, what exactly is he doing? And these are some of the things that he's doing. I believe he's drunk the Kool-Aid of the underdog and that he's out of his swimming lane. It is incongruent that he should be still part of the royal family and talking about the US election. It is also incongruent that they are doing a speech on equality from an $11 million mansion. Look, I'll have a bit of a go at the psychology here. Why? Because I think it's interesting for us under COVID. And Harry's been uncertain in his role, uncertain in his future, uncertain in his relationships, and weakened by the emotional trauma of his mother's death. I think that's been stated very clearly. And we have something where you can get people out of any state and lead them in a different direction by what's called a pattern interrupt. Now, let me show you what I mean, because this is fascinating. Application window, here we go. This is a pattern interrupt from Darren Brown. And Darren Brown is a hypnotist. Darren Brown is a hypnotist who, have I got the right one up? Yes, he's a hypnotist who, right. What he'll do is he'll go for the handshake. He'll go for the handshake with somebody, but when you put the hand in and people have an automatic response to handshake, he actually changes what he does. He grabs the hand, and this is a hypnotist technique. By breaking your pattern, they get a split second of your mind to move it in a different direction. So here's Darren Brown doing a pattern break. The boy sits down, he goes to grab his hand, but he doesn't. He does something else.
Right the way down. And as you relax and listen to my voice, I'm going to take your hand, and with your eyes closed, I'm going to place your hand there, but I won't tell you to put it down.
So I'll just show you that again. It's actually harder to do than it looks. Right. So he didn't shake his hand. He interrupted the pattern. Now, how do I get out of share? Stop share. There we go. So what's happened with Harry is he's got this uncertainty. Meghan has come in, scrambled his mind with a whole lot of difference, and then gone, I have a clear direction. I have a political direction. I have an equality direction. And he's grabbed onto that, and he's off and running. I think that is what's happening. Why is this interesting to us? It's interesting, I think, because of COVID uncertainty. And what happens is we have psychological pressures that we don't understand. This has never happened before. And I think about the movie in Germany where the family, it was a movie, where the family were trapped in a house during the Second World War, and they were told that they were living a normal life, and they were given food and comforts, but they played sound at a high frequency so that the human ear couldn't actually hear that it was there, but it was there. And everybody's behavior started to change without realizing why. Similarly, with the uncertainty of COVID, I think that we have been searching for certainty. The brain searches for certainty. We can't cope with uncertainty. And as a consequence, that is exhausting. And we become very exhausted for no reason. Then there's Zoom fatigue. It's very difficult to explain why. I've read a lot on it, but why are we so exhausted by Zoom? And, I find myself doing things like when friends have said, oh, you're free now in Melbourne, 25 kilometres this a week ago. And I found myself barking back saying, what difference does that make? And thinking, where did that come from, Louise? That I'm not normally like cranky like that. We need to realise that there has been something going on psychologically that is affecting us. So a lesson from Harry, don't make big decisions when you're in this state. 2, become super aware if you are doing things in your behavior, fidgeting madly, doing things with your mouth, finding your eyes don't work, getting cranky very easily. Be very aware and mindful of those patterns and recognize that something is going on, something outside your awareness that you don't know about. And thirdly, be very kind to yourself. So now is a time to not whip yourself, but actually realize that you're under a bit of stress of uncertainty, and be very kind and seek the joy. Seek out the joy and have a great day. Thank you.